Okay, so welcome back to Burymeinablazer. Today I have a very special guest on, personal friend. She is the founder and owner of The Wild Skincare, my friend Ro. So I wanted to welcome Ro on. So excited to have her.
Hi, Mac. Thanks for having me.
She's coming all the way from Vancouver, virtual. So looks nice and sunny where she is, unlike here in Toronto.
Yeah, it's beautiful. No offense, but it's like really stunning here today.
Which is like not normal. I feel like it's very opposite.
For sure. I'm so smug about it too. It's, but I was just saying to Mac before we hopped on, like I am ready for it to be pissing rain and just like to be sat on my couch for the next like 10 months.
Right. And feel like no guilt about not being outside or doing something.
No, it's productive. Like, it's so much. I love the sunshine, but it's so much pressure. Like, sue me. Yeah. I just want to sit on my couch for a little while, you know?
No, for real. I love to just do nothing. But if it's sunny out, I feel so guilty.
Yeah. It's like, get off my back. Like, I want to be indoors.
Yeah, definitely. So we can get right into it. So I know you're back in Vancouver now from being in Toronto, but where did you grow up and like go to school and everything?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Vancouver. My family had immigrated here from the Middle East in the late 80s, but I was born and raised here and was here basically up until I moved to Toronto. So I'm like very much a Vancouver girl, very outdoorsy, love to be in nature, very energized by the outdoors. But yeah, like Vancouver through and through.
Because I remember when you first came and we were working at the same place and I was like, oh, she's totally Toronto. Like I would have had no idea. I feel like there, you can like sometimes tell. And I was like, oh yeah, like I can't believe she's from Vancouver. She fits in so perfectly in the city.
It's funny you say that because I like vividly remember my very first day living in Toronto. And there, you know, there's a lot of stereotypes about like West Coast and East Coast living. West Coast is very back and relaxed and East Coast is very like hustle and bustle and go, go, go. And I remember so clearly my very first day in Toronto, I was like unpacking and I was like, okay, I'll go get some lunch and like take a break. And I walk out of the door and everyone was walking so fast. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm walking. And I like was like sprinting up the street. And I was like, what? Why am I walking so fast? Like it's so intense here. But anyways, I was super ready for Toronto when I moved. So I feel when I was there and when I first planted myself there, I was ready to just be like all in. Okay, I'm a city girl. And yeah.
So what brought you to move to Toronto in the first place?
Yeah. So my boyfriend got a really great job opportunity at the time. And I was working at Aritzia and I was able to transfer. It was super easy. So, and I had been kind of itchy for a new place to go. I'd been in Vancouver all my life. I never went to school anywhere. I went to university locally. And so it was just the right time and made the move. And, you know, and I know you talk about this a lot with your move to Dubai and how much you encourage people to do that. And even though my move was, you know, just across the country, it really was the most, and it's so lame to say, but it was like truly the most transformative experience. I am such an evolved version of myself and I like attribute so much of that to that move. So very, very grateful for my Toronto chapter.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, no matter how big or small the move is, if you're even moving like an hour away from your hometown, I think it's the whole point is just getting out of somewhere you've been forever to at least do something new, whether it's a new country, a new city, it doesn't matter. I think it still gives you like so much perspective and
it's
opens
so
your eyes a little bit.
Totally. No, it's so true. And you know, they say you're a product of your environment, right? And so, and I believe that to be true in the good ways as far as my life goes. You know, I'm super outdoorsy and like that's because of the fact that I grew up near the oceans and the mountains and the ocean and the mountains. But then on the flip side of that, it's like, okay, you're only able to grow, you know, within what sort of like your environment will allow you to. And so moving to Toronto, again, although just in the same country, it is a bigger city. There is a lot going on. It's super stimulating and culturally rich. And, you know, there's so much happening that, it was really such a cool experience.
But you say your family still lives here, right? So did they always live here?
So no. So basically my family immigrated here from the Middle East. They landed in Toronto, then they moved to Vancouver. Then my parents divorced and then they, you know, went on to have their own lives. My mom fell in love with my stepdad, who's from Edmonton. She was there for 10 years and then ended up moving to Toronto like a couple years before I left, which made leaving Toronto very difficult. But so my mom and my stepdad and my little brother are still in Toronto.
Okay. So definitely you have lots of reasons to come back and visit.
Oh, for sure. Also, if my mom and my little brother and stepdad weren't enough, my hairdresser is still there, and like I am refusing to find a new one. So like I literally come to Toronto to get my haircut. It's so stupid, but
yeah, that's quite a trek for a haircut. But I mean, it makes it worth it when you have other things to do.
For sure.
So I was going to ask, what was your very first job that you got, in terms of maybe what was your first job in high school? And then what was your first job out of college or university?
Okay. Yeah. So my first job in high school, I got a job as soon as I could work. I grew up in a middle upper class neighborhood. And so when my parents split up, it was a moment where I grew up quickly for 100 different reasons. But, you know, I was living with my mom, I was a single mom. And, you know, she said to me in a really honest and gentle way, like, listen, if you want to continue to experience and live life the way some of your friends and your peers are, like, you're going to have to start making some of your own money. And so anyways, I started working right away. I worked at some coffee shop at the end of my street. I would work like the 6 a.m. shift on a Saturday morning. So I feel like, you know, and not to say that that's super impressive. I know a ton of people do that, but at 15, 16 years old, that was a huge responsibility. And I did feel like I was doing a little more than some of my other friends at the time. And so that was kind of that. And then I am telling you this only because I love you, but my second job is like actually so embarrassing. I worked at Booster Juice. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but just like it's so weird that I did that. So anyways, I worked at BJ's, and then my first job
is that what the inside staff call it, is BJ's?
We call it BJ's. It's just like a little lingo. And then that's like the piping hot tea for you guys, the way we talk at BJ's. And then my first job out of university was Aritzia. Like it happened, I want to say like 21, 22 when I got that job. And so I started my corporate life pretty young as well.
Yeah. I feel like as you get working there and you realize this is something you want to do, you're usually like, I think I was like 22, 23 years old. And I was like, hey, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So you have like this big responsibility at quite a young age.
For sure. And I think also, you know, Aritzia is one of the bigger players in Canada and like in the women's retail space. And so to, you know, have been sort of recognized by Aritzia as someone who, you know, they want within their business was like super cool at that time. And still, like, I'm so proud of that chapter. But yeah, so that was corporate life until I was about, I want to say 20. I mean, I was there about 5 years, on and off about 5 years.
Yeah, I agree. I agree in the sense that, it makes you feel like you have like a sense of, you're proud that they recognize me to be one of their leaders. And I had looked up to them for so long in terms of like their business style. And they really do like train you and teach you so much about like working and work ethic and everything. So I always feel like grateful for that, but I feel like it instills a lot in you.
For sure. It's also tricky though, because it is, and like, you know this very well, it's a competitive environment, like anything in life. It's a competitive environment. And so when you look at people around you doing really well, or, you know, they're super successful, that was also another lesson, like really just learning to kind of cut out some of the noise around me. Like, just because this person's doing super well over here, it doesn't mean that I'm not doing well at what I'm doing, you know?
Yeah, but it's hard. It's really hard to do that.
I know it is, but it is. And I definitely have not perfected it, but like, especially doing what I do now, you have no other choice but to be super good at drowning out the noise, or else like it will occupy 100% of your time.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's definitely something that is like a learned skill, and you're never going to be perfect at it, but you just kind of have to put your blinders on and like realize the success of somebody else doesn't mean there's any less success for me, but it takes a while.
And also but also like the way I look at it now is, anytime, and I've said this before, but anytime I spend worrying about how well someone else is doing or what someone else is up to is just like time I'm stealing away from myself to be able to work on my business or work on myself or my self-esteem or whatever it is. But I just look at it like I'm stealing from myself by giving so much time and energy to the things around me. So
no, that's a good way to look at it. And I didn't really ever think you have so many good tidbits of little info.
you make me feel so wise.
You are wise. You are wise. Definitely.
Oh, thanks. Thanks.
So you were in Toronto for a little bit, and then what was the ultimate decision for you to head back to Vancouver and kind of like pick up your whole life here and go back?
Yeah, I mean, Toronto was only ever meant to be a year, and then we just kind of gave it another year and then another year, and it ended up being about 5 years.
Wow.
But yeah, I love Toronto. I had the best time there. I met the most amazing people. I met the best version of myself. And I hate to bring it up, but COVID like really changed the city for that time, that 2 years. And so, the main things Toronto has to offer, like events and nightlife, wasn't available. We were stuck inside our house. We had the dog, and Vancouver was literally business as usual. Like not a care in the world. COVID basically didn't exist here. Yeah, that was, we kind of just decided from there, like, okay, you know what, maybe it's time to go back. And you were in Dubai for quite a bit of COVID, right? Or no? Yeah.
Well, I left, I guess, like March of 2021 when it was like everything else was starting to open up except us. And so I was like, fuck it, I'm taking off. Because everywhere else that I was traveling to was normal.
Totally. Which was so badass of you. I remember you would like, I don't know, you posted something on Instagram or something, and it was maybe about moving. And it happened like so quickly, but I have so much respect for like that decisiveness. Like I'm deciding to do something and I'm just going to do it. And especially at a time where everyone's kind of like, okay, what's going on? It's a bit spooky. I have so much like respect for you committing to that decision.
Yeah, it was scary. I think if I didn't make it quick, I wouldn't have went, like it was like I gotta just
for
go for it, or if I sit on it too long, I'm gonna be like, no, I can't do something like that. Like, what makes me think I can do that?
100%. And honestly, like I feel that way about having started the Wilds, and I didn't move anywhere, but I built the Wilds during the pandemic or like whatever. And so similar thing, like I kind of just blindly kept going, and I was like, okay, this feels good, keep moving forward, and then before you know it, like you move to Dubai or you launch a business. But yeah, I totally believe in that kind of like blind optimism.
Yeah. Cause you think like in your sense, I'm going to start this brand, I'm going to do this. And then you sit back and you're like, but like, what makes me think I can just do this? Like, how can I just start this brand? And it's like, you almost just have to go for it and not think about like what you're doing. Just think about
100%,
the main goal.
For sure. And like in hindsight, I probably could have been like could have thought a little bit more about a couple things, but in general, I feel very grateful for that kind of, okay, let's just keep it moving and this feels right. And, same as you, do it and we'll deal with like if it didn't work out after.
Do you think, so we'll get into kind of what the Wilds is, but do you think that if it didn't happen, maybe when it did, it may have taken longer, or you may have like put it off because you were busy, doing other things, because it was slow because of the pandemic, right? So do you think that?
1,000%. Like I would have never, I mean, who knows, but I don't think I would have done it had I not been just like sitting at home being like, okay, well, I'm here for the foreseeable future. Like who knows what's happening. And I had been thinking about it for a long time. I thought about starting my own business and had been really interested in skincare and wellness in general. And then it happened and I was like, okay, if this is not a sign from the damn universe to just like put my head down and focus on something, because I have all this time. And so, and at the time I had decided I wanted to do the Wilds. I wanted to conceptualize and develop the Wilds, but I knew it was going to take a long time. I mean, you can't launch a business overnight, especially something like skincare. You have to test formulas and, do some pretty extensive research and testing. And then also, not to mention, during a pandemic, like supply chain, and to this day is still so crazy. But at that time, nothing was moving. Nothing was happening.
Yeah, it was impossible.
Impossible. So how am I supposed to get my packaging together and my bottles and all these other things? And so what I decided to do was start a newsletter / Instagram account / website that was also kind of a blog, just about green wellness is what I called it. So like plant-based nutrition and clean skincare and beauty and holistic healing practices. And the objective there was like, okay, in the time that I'm building the business, get a community built up and get people really engaged with, sort of my point of view when it comes to wellness, build a subscribers list, like a mailing list, And so I did that basically until I was ready to launch the Wilds.
Yeah, because I remember I was following the page, what it was previously called, and then all of a sudden I think I went to go look at it and it had kind of started to change over, and I was like, she's up to something, like something's
This
happening.
bitch is up to something.
Yeah, what is she doing? And then you like made a post that it was changing to the Wilds and you hoped everybody would stick around. But no, I remember when that all started. And I liked like the page that you had. It was like super aesthetic and stunning, and the newsletter and everything. And then came the Wilds. So what is the Wilds?
Came. Yeah. So the Wilds is my precious baby. It's a clean, genderless, and step simplified skincare line. So there are only 4 products, and the whole idea is that like your everyday skincare essentials have been formulated into just these 4 products. You're only doing 2 things in the morning, 2 things at night. It's so easy to use. Like I say this both as like the founder and just like a consumer of skincare. It's so easy to use. It's so approachable. If you've been using skincare for 10 years, or if you haven't put like a drop of moisturizer on your face ever, you like will have no problem like jumping into it.
Yeah. So just obviously it's clean and it's very aesthetically beautiful, but just easy for people that don't want to have to do a 25-step skincare routine, which is intimidating to somebody, like you said, who's never done anything, that they don't know where to start.
For sure. And I think, you know, when I was conceptualizing the Wilds, you know, people always say, like entrepreneurs, any article or anything I've ever read, they always say, you know, if you're going to launch a product or a service or whatever it is, you want to try and solve a problem that the consumer has. And so for me, on my own personal skincare journey, I, you know, was really struggling to consume skincare the way I wanted to. For one, I felt like there was so much information out there. And I at the time, I felt pretty skin literate, but I was like, I don't know left from right in skincare sometimes. Like there's so much. Yeah. I just want someone to like spell it out for me. Tell me exactly
what I'm doing
in the morning.
Same.
Just, you know, like just tell me what
I
to
need
do.
like every step, at what time, in what order I'm doing. Like otherwise I can't. They'll be like, use a BHA and a this acid and this acid, and I'm like, okay, that's all great, but give me the exact one and tell me exactly what step and what or else I can't. I get overwhelmed.
For sure. No, I completely agree. And I was just like, what's up with all this foreplay? Like, let's just get down to it and like tell me what to do. And so that was like for one. And so all of our boxes will say like AM step 1, AM step 2, whatever. And so it's like super easy. And then, I just wanted it to be, again, like super approachable. And so anyways, all of that to say, I felt like I could come into the skincare industry with this sort of approach that was like, listen, skincare doesn't have to be super fussy and complicated. And then also part 2, which I am super passionate about when it comes to skincare, I could not believe that like no one was talking about the fact that, listen, topical products are super effective, very important. But like your skin is an organ. Why aren't we talking about your stress management, the food you're eating, how well you're sleeping, your water intake? That all contributes so meaningfully to the health of your skin. And like, we're never talking about that. And so, you know, it's important for me through the Wilds to this day to make sure that, I'm giving you an incredibly effective, high performance product. But like, let's also talk about all the other things that are also going to contribute to your skin health.
Yeah, because I feel like nobody does that. Like now that you've said that, I can't really think of any other brand the products that I'll buy that do that, because
for sure
I could be buying like the most expensive products in the world, and if I'm eating terribly, don't drink water, I'm like stressed constantly and my skin just isn't getting better, it's like, where's the disconnect, you know?
For sure. And they don't talk about it because how do they make money off you eating well tonight? You know what I mean? It's like, that doesn't serve any brand. So anyways, those 2 things were kind of, I felt like that approach and philosophy to skincare gave me the confidence. I was like, I'm not seeing it anywhere. I feel like this is an interesting take on skincare.
Yeah, totally. I definitely agree. I think it is. So had you thought that you've always wanted to create a skincare brand, or kind of when did this become an idea that you're like, okay, I want to put this into action? Was it through the pandemic or before?
A little bit before. Like I had planted the seed in my own head a little bit before, but I had been introduced to my now chemist through my now business mentor. I want to say, yeah, it would have been right around when the pandemic started, somewhere right around there in the spring. We had met for the first time, and my then friend, now business mentor, knew I was interested in this space, had seen I'd been posting a lot about skincare with the newsletter. And so he was like, okay, this is a really easy introduction and there could be some synergy here. So met the chemist. He is so brilliant, has been formulating over 30 years, is just like so great at what he does. And this process has been really amazing and successful, I believe, in large due to him. But anyways, I met him, floated my concept around. He, kind of was taking his time to see, if he's willing to take a chance on me, basically. And when he kind of gave me the green light and I had that sort of locked in, I was like, okay, you know what? I think I can actually make a go of this. And so then from there, I kind of started conceptualizing, okay, like, what do I want the packaging to look like? And I started making a Pinterest board and it just kind of started snowballing. And I know that's kind of a fluffy answer, but it is the honest to God truth. It just took a bit of its own, like it took a life on of its own or whatever, and had a natural momentum. And I kind of just woke up one day and I was like, oh, holy shit. Like I have all my ducks in a row. Like I can just hit go into production and then we're on the way.
Because once you get going, you don't realize like, oh wow, okay, I've done this and I've done this. And when you think, I guess from like a 30,000 foot perspective, you're like, oh, there's so much to do. Like, how am I ever going to get all this done? But when you actually look very closely, it's like, okay, I've already done this and I've already done that. And you don't realize it until you're like almost at the finish line and you're like, wow, I fucking did it.
It's so true. And that's actually so funny you said that. I was speaking to my boyfriend about that this morning, about something else, but just the exercise of being able to pull yourself back and look back 30, 60, 90 days, a year to see, wow, like you actually have made all this progress. But no, it's so true. And yeah, it really was just the momentum, and you wake up and, it's so overwhelming at the beginning because there's nothing to do but everything. Like you're starting from scratch and there's so much to do, but you just a little bit at a time. And the other thing too, when you are developing something, and I'm sure maybe you felt this way when you were launching the podcast, but you want it to be perfect. When the world sees it for the first time, you're like, I want you to think it's perfect. And so you spend a lot of time trying to achieve that. But if you can just kind of, again, pull yourself back, remind yourself, okay, I'm going to build it as best as I can. But when you launch something, that's when you learn the most. And again, like I'm sure, you're how many episodes in already?
14.
14. Like that's crazy. That is so crazy. That's amazing. But yeah, it's like, I'm sure you've already learned so much in those 14 episodes. So it's like, you just got to get yourself through the finish line and then you learn from there.
Yeah. You, like you said, you want it to be perfect when it comes out, right? Because you're putting your name on it. You feel very vulnerable that this is like, especially in a creative space, that you've like taken the time to do this and put your heart into it. And then it's out there for people to judge or critique or whatever. But yeah, I've learned most as I go from like episode to episode, or I'm sure from like every launch you do or every campaign, it's like the things I want to change X, Y, and Z, but you wouldn't know that unless you just went for it.
For sure. Also, Mac, I'm still thinking about you telling me you've done 14 episodes. I saw something on TikTok the other day. Also, when I see something on TikTok these days, I tell people I read it in the Times because it makes me sound smarter. So I read something in the Times recently that said, I'm going to say the numbers wrong, but it was something like 90% of podcasters don't make it past episode 20. Have you heard this?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so 90% of podcasters don't make it past episode 20. So when you record your 21st episode, you should do a celebration because you then know you're in the like top 10% of people who tried, which is like so cool.
That is really cool. I actually didn't know that. I have read things in the Times about, how like people will put out like 1 or 2 episodes and then give up or whatever it may be. Yeah, am going to start saying that in the Times because I feel like an idiot when I'm on dates and I'm like, oh my God, I saw this on TikTok. And they're like,
no, I read it in the Times.
Yeah.
I read it in a hard copy, like newspaper.
Yeah. Then I sat at my kitchen table, drank my coffee, and I read the paper. Did you not see that? Did you not?
Are you on TikTok? You uncultured swine. Ew.
Yeah, okay, I'm using that. That's a good one.
You should. It makes me sound so smart. People are like, oh, I'm like, I know.
What an intellectual.
I know.
What would you say, I guess, from the start of your idea until the day that you launched your first product? What was the time frame with that?
Yeah, it was somewhere around 2 years. And granted, again, I was doing this all through COVID. There were so many delays. I had planned to launch in the summer and then the fall and then Christmas, and none of that happened. And then I didn't end up launching until the end of January of this year. So it took a long time. And I would honestly say a few of those delays was just like me standing in my own way. Again, going back to like, you know, being a perfectionist and wanting everything to be just amazing before you launch. You know, in hindsight, I could have, you know, just not been so emotional about certain decisions. And I may have gone through the finish line a little bit sooner, but all of that to say, I'm super happy with what I ended up launching with and very proud of what it ended up being. So yeah, maybe I could have gone a bit faster, but I'm still super happy with how it all sort of came to life.
Yeah, because I feel like it was meant to launch when it was meant to launch, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You think like it could have been sooner, but it's for a reason in the end.
Yeah, for sure. I know. I'm a big universe guy too. Everything that's meant to be will be the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I 100% agree. At least, you know, I tell myself that all the time.
When everything's on fire, I'm like, it's supposed to be this way.
Yeah. This was meant to happen to me.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be crying right now. This is like meant to be.
Yeah, for real. It definitely helps. Makes me feel better.
A good scream cry.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned that you had a business mentor. But where did you even know where to start? Like, how did you even know where to start? Like, what was the first thing? Like, and was it even the right place where you started? Or do you think you could have started somewhere different?
Yeah, I mean, I was very fortunate to have my business mentor basically from the beginning who really helped guide me. But yeah, I would say, I'm just trying to think like early days. You know, I think here's the deal. When you decide you're going to do something, you have to lean all the way in. And so anyone and their damn dog who was willing to listen to me, like I was telling them about this idea and that I wanted to pursue this project and this was my concept and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, you start to put that energy out into the universe. And I feel like it starts to kind of come back to you with that sort of energy or the thing that you're pursuing. And so I really started to talk about what is now the Wilds. And then my boyfriend actually introduced me to my now mentor and said, hey, this is someone who is really savvy in the wellness space and could be interesting, even if it's just like a singular coffee. And so we had that conversation and, you know, that conversation led to another conversation. And then it just kind of went from there. But as far as like sourcing out suppliers and the nitty gritty stuff, that wasn't guided by my mentor. I mean, I just literally got on Google and started searching, you know, glass bottle suppliers and, you know, illustrators and graphic designers. Like I literally just was Googling everything and getting a bunch of samples and trying different things out until I found the right people to help me create the product. But yeah, it really is just having the willingness to make something come to life. And again, you know this very well. It's like, it's one thing to have an idea. It's one thing to talk about it. It's one thing to start emailing people and like suppliers. Then it's one thing to put the order in. And then before you know it, you're basically there.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like you saying that you were like telling everybody about this idea and I started like telling my friends about the podcast and it was almost like it was like I was doing it to put pressure on myself to be like, okay, now you have to actually do it. Like you said, you were doing something. So like, do it. Like you got to go for it. You can't like say you're going to do something and not do it. So it almost motivated me more to get it done.
For sure. No, I am so a believer of that. I feel like I did the same thing when I was moving to Toronto, actually, because I had never lived anywhere and I had almost moved 100 places up until then. And when I started telling people about Toronto, it was, I think to your point, subconsciously, like I really wanted it to happen. And so I was like, okay, if I just tell people it's happening and I don't go, like, I'm not a loser, but like, come on, I should probably do it, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I totally agree.
Did you, there was probably a lot of trial and error as there is with, you know, any idea, any business, whatever it may be. Was there ever a point where you're like, I can't do this and I want to give up or I feel like giving up?
For sure. I mean, like I probably thought that this morning. like I'm constantly
I'm done.
in a place.
Over this.
Yeah. I think all the time. And I don't think that feeling goes away. I think really what that feeling though is, when you sort of strip it all back, is just the pressure of like really wanting something to happen. And so anytime I do have that feeling, I kind of just reframe it. It's like, okay, I give so much of a shit about what I'm doing. And like the idea that the idea that it doesn't look the way I had like dreamed of it yet is like, just means I care that much. Like I want it so badly to work out. And so, okay, yeah, it's like really stressful that I'm having a day that's kind of going sideways or whatever it is. But I really, and maybe this is lame to say, but I just believe so much in what I'm doing. Like I really believe that people give a shit about like easy, approachable, unfussy skincare. I believe that people are really enjoying the brand. And so, you know, and then I've started to work with wholesalers, and that's been going super, super well. And so
good.
You know, I just have all of these little signs around me that are like, I know some of this other stuff might not be going perfectly today, but like all these other things are a check, and you just have to focus on that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I feel like I was reading this article in the Times as well. And it was like a world-class, like champion gymnast. And she said that her coach gave her the best piece of advice ever that she's always remembered in anything worth doing. If you're truly passionate, if you didn't have those up and down days, that it's not something you should be doing, because if you're always up, then what's the point of working for it? And you know, if you're always down, then there's, you know what I mean? So if you are back and forth, it truly shows that you care because you want it so bad, and it's not always going to be easy. And I thought that was like, so when I'm doing something now, I'm like, okay, if I'm upset that something isn't working about it, that means that I really want it and it's worth working towards.
1,000%. And like human nature, we're really funny creatures as humans, because, you know, we need contrast and like juxtaposition in life to be able to understand things. You know, like you don't understand happiness unless you've been sad, because once you've been sad, you know what it feels like to be happy. You don't know what it's like to be whatever the opposites are, but it's like, it's that exact idea. You have to have the bad days, but you just have to make sure that those bad days fuel you back up into your good days. You know, it's like you both are equally important.
Yeah. So I feel like you would definitely experience that in what you're doing, but it's always, the motivation is way higher than any downs that you're feeling.
For sure. And I think similarly to podcasting, skincare is an extremely saturated space. There's 100 million people doing skincare. There's indie brands, there's cosmetic like derm brands, there's 500 celebrity brands, which like,
I was going to say that.
Don't get me started on, but like, yeah, it's just, and similarly to podcasting, there's so many amazing podcasts out there. So yeah, there's a lot of people doing a lot of good things around you, but you just got to stay focused on what you're up to and trust that you're offering something valuable and like contributing something valuable to your space.
What would you say, I guess, what is a piece of advice you would give to somebody who would be interested in starting a brand if they were like, I don't know where the fuck to start? What advice would you give to somebody that's in the thick of it?
Okay, I'm going to try and give really actionable advice, because I really dislike when I'm reading an article or listening to a podcast and it gives like some fluffy answers. So real actionable advice, I would say, and this is the fun part, which is like branding. So the very first thing I would do is start a Pinterest board and start pinning like all of the different things that you feel inspired by, that you think kind of like represent or articulate the brand you're trying to create. Save fonts, save images, and create a bit of a board. And you'll notice the visual element is super exciting when you see something coming to life. Look at other brands that you think are successful or are doing a really good job in your space, and kind of try and reverse engineer their journey. Look at how they started, what they did, what were some of their decisions in growing their brand or business or service or whatever. And then if you do require like suppliers and all that kind of stuff, again, Google is one hell of a tool. Keywords, it's like whatever, for my business, let's say it was like glass bottle supplier Canada, glass bottle wholesale Canada, US, like whatever it is, and just keep going. And when it comes to suppliers as well, you can get free samples all day long. So reach out to literally 10, 15, 20 different suppliers if you like, get samples from everybody and just start testing things out. And then those are like the big ones. I think from there, you really do start to learn a lot and get a sense of all the next steps, but those are kind of the main ones. And also, you know, getting someone to, you know, find someone who is going to set up your website. That's something that takes a lot of time. Just like all those little things, start reaching out to people and get those things started. And then again, from there, it really will start to kind of flow on its own.
Yeah, I feel like that's all great advice, and it's all like achievable, like you said, actionable things. Whereas like people are like, oh, well, you need to whatever, like the most outrageous thing
Have
that
passion.
it's not. Yeah, it's like be motivated and get up early and work on your project. It's like, yeah, I want to fucking work on it, but like, what do you suggest I work on?
No, for sure. It's like my pet peeve when people say, and I've definitely given answers like that before, but it's like, yeah, you want actionable advice. So those are the things for sure.
Yeah, because if somebody's coming to you asking you, it's because they actually need help, not
for sure
find their passion.
Yeah, it's like, fuck off. I have passion. Like, what do I do now? You know?
Yeah. Thanks for that. Were you prepared for as much work as it actually was? Or were you expecting it to be like more or less? Or were you just kind of like, whoa, this is a lot to take on?
It was more work than I expected in ways that I didn't expect. So when I was building the business, I imagined all of like, when I would visualize what my business would look like a year from then, I had imagined, okay, I'm going to be fulfilling orders and I'm going to be so busy. And that's what I had imagined, the manual labor almost. But now that I'm here, it's like, okay, well, I can package up an order in my sleep with my eyes closed. So like that takes 2 seconds. It's more like business growth side of things. So like wholesale outreach and like pitching the business and all the little things that go wrong. Like you build a business or a brand based on a bunch of assumptions. And then once you launch, you realize, okay, I assumed all of these things right, but then there's X, Y, and Z that I didn't assume correctly. And so I have to change those things. And so that's where I'm doing more work than I thought. I didn't expect.
Yeah. So all the areas in which you thought was going to be the hardest actually probably became like the
easiest. For sure. And I think, I will also say part 2 of any advice I would give to someone who is building a brand is and not to use the word passion, but this is like I really feel this to be true. Be passionate. Like that's amazing, but also don't be emotional. You have to be able to make decisions and be agile and be decisive. And so have the passion, feel super motivated and excited about what you're doing. But like, remember at the end of the day, not to be so unsexy about it, but like the point of launching a brand hopefully is that, people are going to love it. It's going to be amazing, but like you're also making money. So make sure that you are making decisions that like make sense for your business and not just because you think it's the right thing to do. Like at the end of the day, what's going to make you money? Make sure you have that in mind.
Yeah, it's still a business. Like you still want this to be a success money-wise at the end of the day.
For sure. Like even for you, it's like you're doing this podcast and you want people to listen because they love it and that's amazing. Obviously that feels really, really good and validating, but you also want listeners and viewers because then you're able to roll that into, okay, how do you partner with other brands? And like what audience are you able to leverage to other brands when they want to come? It's like you do have to think about those things, even though they're kind of like unsexy.
Yeah. And it can come across, I don't want to use the word selfish, but like it can come across as, you're doing it in a selfish way, but it's also like, but maybe podcasting isn't my job, but like this is your job. This is your life. Like you want it to be as successful as possible. So you have to make decisions in the business sense and not just with like your heart because you feel like you should be doing that.
For sure. And like an example of that too is like, I don't know, when I was building the brand, I spent money on certain things that I probably shouldn't have because it looked really cool for the brand, but like, did they really do much for the business? Probably not. So that is a part 2 of any advice I would give.
Okay. Noted. Yeah. How would you, I guess, feel the Wilds has been received? Like you mentioned that you're now doing wholesale and I know that you posted that you are now selling like in a store and everything, which is that the wholesale opportunity?
Yeah.
Yes. So it's obviously going very well.
I was very grateful and fortunate to have had the response I did over launch. I think I did 10x in sales, what I had projected to do in that first month. Wow. I did in 10 days. It was like an insane launch. But when you launch, your friends and family are going to be really noisy and really supportive, and which is amazing. Yeah. But then when that kind of dies down, that's when you realize, okay, who's actually watching and listening and who cares about what you're doing. And, it was a really amazing experience, a lot of really good feedback. But when your friends and family do step out of the picture, it's like, okay, I actually do have to work a little bit harder to grab people's attention and make sure people are still invested in this brand. And so there was like a bit of a slow phase in through the spring, which was a huge learning and, reignited my need to hustle.
Yeah.
And then we launched our first retail partner in June or July, Sonia Link, which is a local store here in Vancouver, beautiful, beautiful curation of products like home, body, face, makeup, all the things. And they have ordered, I think 4 times in the last 2 months, which has been amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah. So response has been great. I still have a ton of work to do. I still, try and remind myself that I have some big goals, and just because these things are going really well, it doesn't mean that you can slow down or take a chill day. You have to keep pushing. But overall, very, very grateful for the response.
Yeah, no, that's amazing that you already have that opportunity so close to launch, because you're in it every day, so you think wow, it's it's been a while, maybe I should be getting more opportunities, but it's still very short span of time.
For sure. And that's actually what I had been, when I said earlier I was talking about being able to pull yourself back, the reason I was talking about that was for that exact reason, because I have moments, because I spend 99% of my work time by myself.
Yeah.
And so it's, you don't have anyone there telling you you're doing a great job or we're trending exactly where we need to be. I can look at those numbers myself, but when I'm doing other things, I don't have someone reminding me of all that stuff. And so yeah, I need to be better at kind of pulling back and just being okay, all of these things have happened in less than a year, and it's great.
Yeah. It's hard to do that. It's the same with when you're working out or whatever. You look at yourself every single day, so you're and nothing's changing, but then you see somebody you haven't seen in a while and it's oh my God. So it's the same with that. It's I can come as an outsider and be wow, she is absolutely killing it in such a short span of time, but you're in the trenches, killing it.
For
and
sure.
You just can't see that.
For sure. And then you pull yourself back and you're hang on a second. I am sick.
Look at me.
Look at me.
Yeah, no, totally. I definitely. What would you say, what was your biggest inspiration behind the brand? Was it, like you said, that the space was just lacking what you could provide?
Yeah, I felt again, there's so many different skincare brands out there and there's a lot of choices for consumers, but I genuinely felt there wasn't another brand talking about skincare the way I wanted to talk about it. And so that definitely fueled sort of my confidence in being able to give this a go. And then I literally talk about my mom on every podcast, but she was a huge inspiration. She really taught me a lot about wellness growing up. And so I think I always knew I wanted to land in the wellness space. And then as I got older, it sort of started to take shape with skincare specifically. But yeah, I would say what really inspired me was I wanted to provide to the industry what I felt I wasn't being given, which was, again, this approachable, all-inclusive sort of skincare approach.
Yeah, that makes sense. Something was missing and you went out and did something about it yourself, which is...
Yeah, for sure. And which is the key, they say, is the key to a successful business or product or whatever. You're solving a problem. And I felt I was.
Who's they? The New York Times?
It's funny you say that, Mac. Yeah, the New York Times talks about it a lot.
Do you feel, and I think I already know the answer to this, do you feel because every celebrity and their fucking mother are coming out with a skincare brand, do you think that it just makes it that much harder for small businesses to be able to get out there and actually give quality product, because it's just this person, they've all come out with a skincare brand this week and it just overshadows, which is ridiculous, but...
Yeah, no, I do. And it's, listen, not to be shady, whatever, you never have to apologize for your blessings or your privileges in life, but damn, if I had 2 million followers on Instagram, I could kill it in skincare too,
Yeah.
And so I honestly, I do look at even some of the brands around me, not necessarily in skincare, but who are selling products, and, the founders themselves have 50 1,000, 100,000 followers. And, you know, those businesses are crushing it. And I'm out here with like my 2,100 followers, like, like, hey, come look at the wild. So anyways, it is frustrating sometimes, but at the end of the day, I also know that when it comes to skincare, people are going to come back because they see results and they really are bought into the brand itself. And so while a celebrity skincare brand might get someone through the door the very first time, like who knows, maybe they don't come back the second time. So that's what I tell myself.
No, that is so true. Because you look at like Kylie Jenner and they're saying like her brand is not really what it used to be. And it's just because there's a loyal community because she is who she is, not because these products are so fantastic that I'm going to go keep buying a lip kit every season. And like you mentioned that before you even launched your brand, you wanted to get a loyal community of followers, which I think you really did because you had quite a few followers on that page before you launched, which the people that stayed, that's loyalty, right? So I feel like that was really smart. And you can have 100,000 followers and launch a brand and make $0 in sales because you don't have genuine followers. Or like you can have a smaller following and get a great response because it's genuine.
For sure. And also this is something else that, you know, not to like talk about followers on Instagram, but it is such a huge component of any brand and like how people perceive your brand. So you have to talk about it. But my business account, I probably have, 4,300 followers. I can't remember. I could confidently say I could probably have almost 10K followers on there if I didn't very actively go through removing bots or just fake accounts. Like anytime I see someone who follows me, I go look at their page, make sure they're a real person. And if there's some weird bot or just like some random fake account, like I'll remove it because I genuinely believe my 4,200 followers that's more meaningful than like 10K, but 60% of those are like fake accounts. Like what does that do for me?
Yeah. And zero engagement from that many people is pointless.
Yeah. So anyways.
That's interesting. That's smart.
Mm-hmm. I do it on my personal account too. Not that it matters because who cares? I have like no followers, but like I do it on my personal too.
Yeah, no, I think that's smart. And I feel like nobody does that or would be honest about it because it's all about the follower count.
For sure. But yeah.
Interesting. What would you say are your biggest day-to-day challenges in owning a business?
Time management. There are 5,000 things to do all at the same time. There's no one there to do them but yourself, and they all are equally as important. So that is definitely something I'm trying to be better at. And then, just not having someone there to like pat you on the back at the end of every day and be like, you killed it today. You know, it's like just making sure that you're able to motivate yourself on the days where you don't feel motivated. And but time, like a real true skill that I struggle at day to day or component of the business is like time management that I really struggle with.
Yeah, there's never enough hours in the day.
There isn't. I mean, like I know you have your day job, let's call it, and then you do podcasting on the side. I mean, do you start like, if you have any tips, let me know. But like,
I know constant. I always think like after I record an episode, it'll usually come out like 2 or 3 weeks after, but I think like, oh, I'll get this edited by next week. So then I'll have time to chill. And it's like every Wednesday night, I'm still editing till like 7:00. And no matter what it is, I'm still like feeling like catch up. There's just never enough time because you still want to live your life to some extent. For sure.
No, totally. Like other than your job, you also want to just have like a normal life outside of that. But my friend's therapist said to me about like to-do lists and when it comes to work, because oftentimes people feel very overwhelmed by like these lengthy to-do lists that like you don't get to 90% of what's written down. And the therapist had said it's like almost a form of torture. Like you do it almost to torture yourself because like you very well know that, to your point, there aren't enough hours in the day. You're not going to accomplish everything. So like, and the other thing too is like you're not going to be able to do everything at a quality of 100%. So like you're better off just writing 3 things down that you know for sure you're going to be able to do, and don't even strive to do them at 100%. Like strive to do them at 60, 70%, because that way you actually get things done and it's like not super overwhelming.
Because it is, because you're just setting yourself up for failure when you have 25 things to do and you already know you're not going to do them. So you already feel like shit for not being able to finish it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is good advice. I'm going to do that.
Yeah. I'm going to do this like shit. I'm going to do this like shit.
So I guess you already kind of answered this in terms of like, you just kind of went for it, but like, how did you know you were ready to do this? If financially even, like how was that to be like, okay, I think I'm just going to jump in and go for it?
Yeah. I mean, as far as like the feeling and the timing of things, again, there was such a natural momentum that was happening. And I had thought about other business ideas or projects in the past, and none of them had felt as like fluid as this. And so I did really feel like the stars were kind of aligning. And so I just kind of went with it. And so I felt ready in that respect. Financially, I, talked to my mentor and a lot of people around me about, realistically what is sort of the cost of starting something like this. Skincare is a super expensive industry. And so I had saved up money. I had been investing for a few years prior and had, a good little chunk of change saved up. And so I was prepared to take the financial risk as well. And so luckily I didn't have to take any like outside loans or work with a bank. I had that money saved up, but those are the two big things, like making sure your ducks are in a row as far as like suppliers and resources go. And then like the finance part of things, do you have your loan in place, or what does that look like? Are you going to be able to fund this business? Like any business is super expensive, but just getting a really accurate, real idea of what your spend is going to look like.
Yeah. I feel like that's probably, for me to think about, one of the biggest things, because how are you going to fund this? You know what I mean? That would be the most stressful part for me, is like, can I even afford to do this? But like you said, if you go about it properly and get stuff ready and set yourself up for success.
And if you don't, because it's easy for me to say that because I had been saving up and had the cash to like take the chance. But if that's not your situation, which like for most people it isn't, and this is actually from like a Forbes article, I swear this wasn't on TikTok, but they say that like, the best thing to do in that situation, if you don't have the capital or like the funds to start your own business with like a product or a service necessarily, is to do a content-based business, which is what you're doing obviously with podcasting, because sure, there's a bit of overhead. You've got to get the equipment and get yourself set up in that respect. But, to do a podcast or to start a blog or like an Instagram account or anything that's content-based is just like your time. So if you can't right away start with a product, start with your time.
Yeah. Oh, that is very smart. It's not easy, but it's like the cheapest way that you can go about like getting yourself out there in a very real and like genuine and in your face kind of way.
For sure. No, it's absolutely not easy. To your point, you have a full other job and then a full other life you want to live outside of your job, but you're also podcasting on the side. That's a huge commitment. Like that is not easy. And the motivation to have made it 14 episodes already so soon after launching as well, like that is a huge amount of commitment and drive and dedication. But it is also, of the two, it's the more economical way to start like a business or a brand. So
yeah, definitely. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I didn't even think of it like that. Last two questions. If you were to start the Wilds over again, what is one thing that you would do differently from the beginning?
The advice I gave earlier is the reason I have that opinion or like share that is because like I wish I had done that myself. Like just being more decisive and less emotional about certain decisions is what I wish I had done. But like, again, all of that to say, I'm super happy with where the Wilds landed. And so, yeah, if I could go back, maybe a few quicker decisions, but at the end of the day, like, I think it worked out the way it was supposed to.
Yeah. It all led to where you are now. So, even if you thought like, oh, I totally fucked that up, or I should have definitely done this different, it's like, it wouldn't have made an impact into your end goal, essentially.
For sure.
And then lastly, so where do you see the brand within the next year, 3 years, 5 years? If you can even,
like I would say my dream, sort of my vision of where I imagine this all going is I want to be on like the biggest wholesale shelves, like the Sephora's of the world. Actually, I'm going to speak like as if it is happening, because if there's one thing I know about manifesting, you speak in the present. So we're going to be on the shelves at Sephora.
Yes, you are.
Yes, I am. Every major celebrity will know about the Wilds. We'll be talking about the Wilds. You're going to see your favorite like celebrities celebrities and influencers talking about it. And
well, Brad Pitt already
I
spoke about it, right?
It's interesting you say that. He spoke about it in the Times, didn't he?
Yeah.
It was on the Times, right?
Yeah, that's where I saw it. That is where I saw it.
If you go to the Times at thewilds.skincare, you'll see Brad Pitt shouting us out. But yeah, I would say like major wholesalers, a lot of big celebrity buzz is what you're going to see. And yeah, like I really do, although it's really cool to be a one-woman show, I do really want to grow the company, and I want to build a community, not just as far as like audiences and consumers go, but like within my business. Like I really do want to create something special and, you know, bring a lot of powerful men and women into my business who share, you know, a similar philosophy that like, you know, skincare and wellness is a lifestyle. It's a 360-degree approach. And yeah.
It's exciting. Well, it's all going to happen, obviously. I feel like it's already picked up so much momentum, and I'm just so excited for you, and I'm so happy for you.
Thanks, Mac. I really appreciate it. And if you haven't like met the Wilds already, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at the exact same handle, which is at thewilds.skincare. I mean this super sincerely. Hop into our DMs if you want to talk like skincare or just say hi. I literally love DMing with people because I'm alone so much of the time. It's like my way of socializing. So yeah.
Yeah. DM Rose. She answers really quickly. I bug her quite often. So yeah, go for it.
Yeah, go for it.
But I'll link everything in the show notes and everything. And I'm so happy that you came on to talk with me and share your story behind the business and starting the business and everything. Cause I think it's so inspiring to not only have a friend, but another female that's out like doing their thing. And yeah, I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited as well.
Thanks, Mac. And I will also say thank you so much for having me. I am so inspired by your voice in podcasting. You are so real and authentic, and it really is like a refreshing POV to hear someone speak like so candidly about love and life and experience. And you are just like doing such a good job of that.
Oh my God, stop. You're going to make me cry. So nice. Well, thank you.
We're just like amazing. Anyways, we can end it there.
And new episode out next week. You can stream on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Thanks for coming on this fucking ride. I'll see you when I see you. Bye.